namely that antidepressants often do not do what they promise and are in fact causing harm to many.
Dr. Steve Hotze is suing over Obamacare's employer mandate.
It's time for a wellness revolution. Brought to you by Hotze Health and Wellness Center. Honest discussion on maintaining health and wellness naturally to enjoy a better quality of life.
He's the doctor fighting to let you keep your doctor.
Now, Dr. Stephen Hotze.
Welcome to Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution. This is Stacey Banfield here with Dr. Stephen Hotze, founder of the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. And as always, feel free to go to our website to download any of our podcasts, day or night. That's HOTZE podcast.com. That's HotzePodcast.com. Now, Dr. Hotze, I am so excited about this guest that we're going to be sharing with our audience today. Who do we have on tap?
Well, we are pleased and privileged to have a fairly new guest of ours, Kathy Schmidt from Kalama, Washington, which is not far from Portland, Oregon. So she's up in the northwest part of the country with her husband, John. And she came to see us this past July. So it has been just maybe 5 months.
Not long at all.
5 months since she came in. So, Kathy, welcome to our radio podcast.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here. So glad to be here. My husband, John, and I are both glad to be here talking with you.
Well, what I really like about patients' stories and their testimonials is that it gives encouragement to literally the thousands of people that listen to the program who can know that they can get on a path of health and wellness. Now, if I had have met you personally, and you may have heard this from some of our staff when you came in, or our new guest consultants, but here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center, I believe and we believe that every person needs a health coach. You need a doctor and a staff of professionals who can coach you onto a path of health and wellness naturally without using pharmaceutical drugs, so that as you mature, you feel well. It's not a really hard concept. That makes sense to you?
Oh, my gosh, absolute sense, because we've been battling my health for probably the last 10, 13 years, and this is totally in line with what we both believe, both health-wise and how the body can heal itself and how God made our bodies to heal itself and gave us everything that we need to put into it to make it well. And just couldn't quite get the right testing and couldn't quite get the right results, but I knew something was off and my husband knew something was off. So, yeah, I've been preaching your word ever since I went there for sure. Sharing your little 180 book, people want it. People are seeing the difference and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got my hormones balanced.
Well, listen, Kathy, tell us now. You and John, did you all grow up in Washington?
I was born in Salt Lake City, but grew up in here just a few miles from Kalama my whole life. And then John was born here in Washington, but grew up back east in Pennsylvania, and then moved back out here when he was in high school. And then we met when I was in high school, and he was out of high school and got married and spent some time in Alaska in a remote site logging camp that he ran, raised our kids there when they were younger. And
how many children do y'all have? How many kids do you have, Kathy?
We have three. A son that is 29, and he's going to be 29 in January. And then we have a daughter that is 27 and a daughter that's 21. She's still living at home going to school.
Well, that's great. So tell us.
And of course, we have two grandkids, three. We have three grandkids now.
Oh, my goodness. Congratulations.
Did y'all have a good Thanksgiving celebration?
We did. It was fun to have family here and just enjoy each other's company.
That's great. Well, Kathy, tell us about your health issues, when they really began. How old were you? How long ago did it happen when you really began to notice that you began to have a decline or some symptoms that you hadn't had before?
About 10 or 12 years ago, I had a hysterectomy for stage 4 endometriosis.
Okay, well let me ask you that. So you had that was to treat a problem that you obviously had for a period of time before that.
Yeah.
So how
yeah.
long?
And
When did you start having? You had the hysterectomy was for endometriosis. Was it for anything else? Dysfunctional uterine bleeding or fibroids or anything?
No. After my first son, after my first child was born, I started to have terrible periods. But he was a prolonged childbirth, a lot of pushing, over 3 hours of pushing, and so. In hindsight, they think at that point I developed endometriosis. And after our second child was born, they were both born C-section. I had terrible stomach pains, could not lay on my stomach or anything. And, the doctor, when our third child was born, said he went in there and there was a bunch of scar tissue and he cleaned everything up. And the periods did not get better. They were horrible, horrible, missing a bunch of work. And finally I found a doctor who said, well, it looks like you've done everything you can, so let's just do a laparoscopy and go in there and see what it looks like. And it was a web of a mess. Everything was grown together. And so, yeah, it was just endometriosis that had gone undiagnosed. They kept wanting to put me on birth control for heavy pills, but I'm telling you what, birth control did not agree with me, huh, honey? I was a whole different person with that, which meant my hormones were out of whack then.
Sure, they were. And birth control pills are not natural in and of themselves. These are drugs that are counterfeited to have similar structures to female hormones, but they're not identical, and they can cause a host of side effects. One of which is estrogen dominance, which leads inevitably to hypothyroid symptoms, and it can lead to a whole bunch of mood swings and weight gain, and a whole bunch of problems can be associated with birth control pills because it shuts off the normal production of your hormones. So as you found out, you couldn't tolerate them very well. So you got off of them. So the problems with the painful periods, were they heavy periods too?
Oh, terrible.
Okay.
Terrible.
So
Yeah,
this
I could,
I was going to say, if they're heavy periods that if you had your second or third child and they became very heavy, that's a sign that you had estrogen dominance. The estrogen hormone was proliferating the inner lining of the womb, and you didn't have enough progesterone being made to balance out your estrogen hormone. And that's what inevitably happens as women mature in age. Commonly, their periods will become heavier and heavier, and they'll get clotting, and then they get fibroids, and may have endometriosis. So you end up at the doctor's office, and the doctor finally says, "Honey, what did he say he could do to help you?"
Yeah, he said, well, when an organ doesn't work right, we take it out. So let's just take it out. And I was like, great, let's do that. Let's take it out. Let's just get rid of the problem. Only that created a host of other problems.
Tell me about that.
Why?
What happened then?
They put you on estrogen because, of course, I'm young. I think I was only 32 or 33 when I had my hysterectomy. And they put you on estrogen, and that's supposed to be just this miracle cure. And, for about 6 months, it was a good deal. And then I started to get brain fog and lethargy and was tired and, just kept seeing the doctor, and they kept tweaking my estrogen. And then it was, well, we think you're depressed. I was like, what? Well, I had some stuff happen in my younger years, that could have caused depression, this and that. Nobody's life is perfect. So they had me convinced I was depressed, and they put me on antidepressants.
Now, how long ago was that?
That was, like 13 years ago, not 15 years ago, not long. That was actually before my hysterectomy because, that I was depressed. That was part of my period problem and all this. And I was like, I don't know, whatever. But, and it works for a little bit, and then it doesn't work, and then you have to up the dose, and then it changes your personality and just turns into a big mess.
Could your husband tell any change in your personality when you got on the antidepressants?
Very much so. And, on the outside, people that knew Kathy, she was just a whirlwind of activity, and she continued that. But behind closed doors, in the 30 years of our marriage, I could count on one hand the number of times we woke up in the morning. She said that she slept well through the night. It just never happened. She would dream, and it was just terrible headaches, and it was just a vicious cycle that she got caught up in with different depression medicines. And when I turned about 40, about 15 years ago, I started running and exercising and feeling really good. And I would try to encourage Kathy to come with me and feel better. And that caused contention too, because that wasn't the problem.
Yeah, and I did, when I did go with him to exercise, because, my brain was still functioning. I know exercise is good for you, but when you're already so bone tired that getting out of bed is the function of the day, and then forcing yourself step by step to go through all the actions. And for me, it was more about playing the part, because there was no way that I was going to lose my job or my associations or what people thought of me because I was on a depression medication. There was no way. It didn't matter what it cost. I was going to fake the part if I had to. And, so I was productive, but like John said, what he saw of me at home was different than what people saw of me outside my home. And even my own kids, my daughter just recently said to me, Mom, it's so nice to know I can just call and have a conversation with you, and I know emotionally where you're at. I don't have to guess, and I don't have to be afraid of you going into a meltdown because of some problem I'm having.
So you used to have that problem with meltdowns, and even when you're on all the antidepressants and all that, you still had the mood swings, mood changes, the anxiety, the depression.
She did, and she wasn't. It wasn't contentious verbally between Kathy and myself or
our
kids,
family.
but she just shut down.
Right.
She was here physically, but that was it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it would take much to tip me over.
so the hysterectomy was in what year?
The hysterectomy was in 2003.
2003, and you'd been on some antidepressants prior to that. They did the hysterectomy. They put you on some estrogen. You felt okay for 6 months. You stayed on the antidepressants. Did you get off the, was it Premarin? Were you on Premarin?
No, I was on estradiol.
Okay. So did you get off that?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster. I did it for, like I would do it for a year or whatever and just get frustrated with it and then be like, this is not helping. I'm not being heard. I would try to go off of it and whatever, natural remedy I'd read about. But there's also a difference between buying something over the counter versus buying something that's compounded by professionals.
Right. Well, so anyway, you were on antidepressants then for how long? How long after the hysterectomy?
Forever.
Up until she came to see.
Yeah.
See you,
and what did they have? What antidepressant were you on when you came in?
For the majority of the time, I was on Wellbutrin.
Okay. So how in the world, you're up in Kalama, Washington. How in the world did you hear about the Hotze Health and Wellness Center down here in Houston, Texas?
Well, first of all, I'm a believer in prayer, and I think the only thing that's carried me through this whole thing is my faith in my Savior and the fact that I'm going to face him one day, and I better be doing the best I can. Go ahead.
Dr. Hotze, I'd like to interject here. Kathy and I's marriage has always been strong, and that's what's got us through this, but our lives were going in two different directions, especially these past couple of years, to where I hike a lot, and I'm very active, and Kathy was just not able to function,
which wasn't me
normally anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of praying that something could be done.
Yeah, and that's what led us there. I truly believe. And John's right. I was at the point where I kind of felt like I was losing my husband, even though I wasn't losing my husband, and I knew that I had to change, but I didn't know how to get there, and I was praying and praying for a way to get there. And we got on a plane, and we were on a Southwest Airlines plane, and I was reading in the Southwest Airlines magazine, And there's this ad in there for the Hotze Health and Wellness Clinic, and it was the testimonials that really caught my eye. I had heard about clinics, thyroid clinics, because I really felt in the last probably 5 years it got bad. I mean, my sugar cravings were off the chart. I gained almost 50 pounds. I couldn't think straight. I'm a teacher, and I couldn't remember my kids' names. They've been in my class all year long, and I'd be like, you guys, this isn't you, this is me. I know who you are, and my brain is just not recalling your name right now. And, the girls know when I call them Princess that I'm having a little brain moment. But anyway, we saw the ad, read it. I was intently reading it, and John said, what are you reading? And I said, well, these people that sound just like me. And
now this
so
was back. Was it this summer?
This was the
April.
1st of April.
Right.
We were headed to Salt Lake City, and we saw this ad in the magazine.
Yeah, and this is when I knew it was bad, Dr. Hotze. John said to me, he read it, and he said, when we get off this plane, I want you to call that place, and I don't care what it takes, you need to go. And I was like, whoa, well, it's an airplane magazine. He said, it doesn't matter. I need my wife back. And not that we were in a terrible shape, but it had just gotten that bad, and I knew it. I knew that it had gotten that bad. Things were just completely out of control. I mean, there were times when I just didn't even want to wake up. Not that I would hurt myself, but it was just like, I don't know what the alternative is. I know something's wrong, but nobody will diagnose me. I know there's a thyroid issue, but my TSH was normal, so no medical doctor would ever test me past that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you made a call, and y'all eventually decided that the best time to come in was in July. So you came in July.
Yep.
Came in.
My daughter had her baby, and so we were coming down there anyway. And so, if I'd known what I knew now, I'd have come the next day.
I got you. Okay, so tell me about your experience. So you made a phone call. Here you are. You're looking at an airline magazine. Now, we've been at Southwest Airline magazine for decades, 20, 30 years. I think we're in every other month now. I don't know why we're not in every month. But anyway, so we've seen a lot of folks come in off Southwest Airline magazines. It's kind of funny how that works out. So anyway, you saw this ad. You go home. Did you make a phone call? Did you call the center and visit with anybody?
Yes, we did. I visited. My first point of contact was Julie Cisneros.
Right. She's a good one. She's a good one.
It's hard not to get emotional because when you go for so many years thinking that this is you, this is the quality of life you're going to have. This is it. Your kids are just going to think you're crazy. What are your grandkids going to think? You're going to lose your job. And I remember talking to Julie and telling her my symptoms. And I said, well, what do you think? And I love your guys' drawl, by the way. She says, honey, we got you covered. We have what you need. And we treat people like you every single day successfully. We can make you well. And I remember being on the phone and just breaking down crying and telling John, I think our prayers have been answered.
That's great. So you came down to see your daughter's baby, and then while you were down here, came over to the center.
Yep. And flew in and stayed the night at the hotel and drove to the Hotze Clinic, and just absolutely the warmest, most friendly medical experience I've ever had.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So people treated you nice? That's nice.
They all treated me nice, and I love Jackie Martinez. She is awesome.
She is.
She
has been. I have called her and called her and called her about vitamins, and I got she was just at that point. And Cheryl, I forgot Cheryl's last name. She's not with you anymore, but I talked to her a lot. And when I had questions about how I'm reading my calendar and about you could call anytime and talk to anyone, and they're just so friendly and so helpful. And nobody says to you, well, that's in your book, honey. Did you read your book? And I say, nobody says that. They just answer you. And then I'm like reading through my book, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I should have just read farther.
Read the directions.
Everything you need is in your portfolio. But the fact of the matter is that it's a complete life change, and it can be a little daunting. But once you get the rhythm, it's so life changing. My kids, like I said, I've got 4 people who are like in active conversation about going there because they cannot believe the change.
Well, I know when you saw Dr. Ellsworth that he spent time with you. Do you feel like he listened to you?
Yes. So,
what was different in your experience meeting with Dr. Ellsworth, who's one of our providers here? What was the difference in that and the other doctors you met with throughout your life?
Yeah, because actually my primary care physician is a really good friend of ours, and so he knew how bad it was. He even came to our home and wanted to make sure that he conveyed to John, with my permission, the seriousness of my health condition. But that Kaiser, our healthcare provider, I don't know if I was allowed to say that, but anyway, our healthcare provider would not test past TSH. But he, because I didn't have any other indicators for Hashimoto's, which is what the Hotze Health and Wellness Clinic diagnosed me with based on my blood work. And Dr. Ellsworth was just so being listened to wasn't the problem. It was getting a result. But Dr. Ellsworth was so kind and thorough, I guess, is the thing that stands out to me, because he just let me spill. He said, tell me about your problems. And probably 20 minutes later, in a bunch of tears, he's like, well, I'm confident that we can help you, and I'm confident that we can change your life if you're willing to make the changes that we suggest. So, and then he launched into, we've got good news and bad news about my blood work. And I said, well, let's have the bad news first. And he said, well, you did test positive for Hashimoto's. Your antibodies are
right
off the chart. And I said, okay, what's the good news? And he said, well, the good news is there is something wrong. and so it's not in your head. But the thing I really liked about the Hotze Clinic was that, and this is where I really had been struggling. I don't believe every one person fits into a normal range.
Right.
One of my friend's favorite things is normal is a dryer setting. But normal TSH for me is not normal for my body when I was in my prime. And if I'm not healthy, the thing I liked about the Hotze Clinic was that they treat you whole body well, based on your symptoms. And so they're going to help you become well with hormone treatment, not well to the 60-year-old normal range when that's surviving, I would imagine. But so anyway, he listened, and just the explanations of, I came out of there, educated on human anatomy and the endocrine system and the hormonal system. And I like that kind of stuff anyway, but he was so thorough with, why yeast is a problem and why we got to get it out of your body and why you've got to have your vitamins on board so that your hormones can work correctly and all that kind of stuff, and why your hormones have got to be balanced and what that does for your body, because I think a lot of people think hormone balancing is, well, I take some estrogen. Well, if you're taking estrogen without progesterone, you're just hurting yourself.
You're exactly right. That's not the way God wired women's bodies. There's to be a balance of those hormones. And unfortunately, when conventional doctors do a hysterectomy, they go, well, you don't need progesterone, because they think progesterone just is to help mature the inner lining of the womb and promote gestation. But every cell in the body, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, it affects our GABA level, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain that helps calm us and helps us feel relatively at ease. And
maybe they
normal.
should progesterone antidepressant.
Well, it is exactly. If you'd have been on that years ago, ma'am, you'd have never had to worry about this. Now, how long did it take you to wean off your antidepressant?
Yeah. So of course, we saw the ad in April, and I booked my appointment like that week. So I knew I was going in July, but the antidepressants weren't really doing anything for me. And I obviously did not have my Hotze book, so I did not see the, wean yourself off of antidepressant page. So I just stopped taking them, which was a little interesting. I was sick, dizzy for a while, and, kind of disoriented. But by the time I got to the Hotze clinic, I had not been taking them for a couple of months, which felt like flying solo or, jumping out of an airplane. That still works. But the thing about it is that once I started on the regimen that Dr. Ellsworth put me on, and John can attest to this, it was
instantaneous. And but I did everything that you guys told me to do. I mean, I exercised basically 20 minutes a day, even though I was not yet getting thyroid hormone to my mitochondria in my cells, and I was bone tired, but I knew that was part of the system. And so in the 2 weeks leading up to taking my first thyroid dose, when I'm getting that progesterone in my system.
Right.
I mean, that piece of knowledge alone, the fact that your cells cannot absorb T4, it has to be T3.
Right.
You have to have progesterone to convert to T3. That piece of information alone could free billions of people.
Well,
but anyway.
Well, the other thing too, and they may have visited with you or may not have, fluoride in the water and fluoride in our toothpaste and a lot of products we eat and a lot of home products. Fluoride adversely affects the cells because it poisons the enzyme within the cells that convert the inactive thyroid hormone T4 to T3. So we always recommend, I do, get yourself a good filter on, a reverse osmosis or some kind of filter your water so you're not getting fluoride, and use non-fluoridated toothpaste. And I have a chapter in my book, Hypothyroidism, Health, and Happiness. I have a section in my book that discusses the adverse effects of fluoride on thyroid health here in the country. So that can be another problem, too, that people are totally unaware of. But it's the reason, frankly, the vast majority of people in our country have the signs and symptoms of hypothyroidism, which goes completely undetected by most physicians.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that first time I took my thyroid hormone, I couldn't even believe it. I called my husband and I was like, midday after taking it, like I feel like I am 25 years old again. Where has this been my whole life?
Well,
one thing I noticed was instantaneous after she had started taking her supplements. She slept through the night and woke up rested. That was instant.
Well, that's how powerful and important vitamins and minerals are in the overall biochemical reactions in our body. We can't, you don't get those, you don't make them in your body. Your body has to take those exogenously. You got to get them into your system, and the way you get them in is through eating them. But our foods, unfortunately, in America are highly processed, and even when you eat raw vegetables and all that, most of them are grown in such a situation that they're picked before they're completely ripe, or they're full of pesticides and other chemical products and fertilizers that adversely affect the vitamin and minerals in those foods. And most people just don't eat good, healthy foods, So our program is really very simple. First and foremost, we're going to have a good, healthy eating lifestyle. We're going to eat good meats, good vegetables, and we're going to get plenty of good oil. And that includes eggs and butter and olive oil and fish oil and avocados and those sort of things. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to eliminate sugar from that eating program and eliminate the simple carbs that are converted to sugar. And most Americans are addicted to sugar. They get sugar highs and sugar lows, and they got to eat sugar all day long, and they got yeast in their system. So we put you on a good, healthy eating program, replenish your hormones. That's so key and important because the hormones, particularly, Kathy, the thyroid hormone, enables the mitochondria, the power plants within your cell, it activates them, enabling them to produce energy from the nutrients you take in and from oxygen in your body. And then the vitamins, not only do they help you produce energy, but they also help detoxify your body from the chemical buildup that all of us have, people all over the world have, because of the chemicals in the environment that we have. We've got things in the food we eat and all what we drink and those lotions we lather on our body. By the way, check your lotions, Kathy, and anybody else listening to the podcast. It's full of petrochemicals. Get yourself some natural lotions that are made from natural substances and abandon. My wife, bless her heart, a couple of years ago, and, I've only been in this for 25 years. Cobbler's kids have no shoes. I'm looking at her lotion, and I go, what is this? She goes, oh, that's the lotion I put on. Oh, look, baby, there are 10 or 12 names here I can't even read. They're all petrochemicals. You can't put that on. We've got at our pharmacy natural products that we sell right here at my business. I didn't know you had them, she said. I don't know. So,
yeah, and that's kind of been one of the things. There's been a whole household change here in our household, and my husband has loved it because that part of that yeast elimination was no sugar, no dairy, no
right.
Gluten, and it's just changed the way we eat. And so I thought, well, I'm big into holistic as well, and I've been reading on coconut. So I got rid of all of my lotions, and I just use coconut oil.
That's good. That's excellent. That's a wonderful, wonderful oil. It's got some very important substances in it that can help your skin stay healthy. Let me tell you what else. In your vitamins, vitamin C enables your body to make collagen, and it helps keep your skin healthy. So vitamin C is very important, too, and I hope you use a lot of that. I'm a strong advocate of vitamin C, and I recommend minimally for every adult 6,000 milligrams a day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening, and 1,000 milligrams per 25 pounds of body weight. But anyway, so the program then involves exercise. So you're on the Good Healthy Eating program. You've replenished your hormones, and you've taken your vitamins and minerals, and you've exercised, and you had a rapid recovery. I mean, very frankly, we tell our guests, expect gradual and steady improvement over the 3 months. You happen to be off all your drugs. Many people come in and are on a bunch of drugs, and, we've got to get them up feeling better and then wean them off the drugs, and so that takes a period of time. So you came in somewhat with a clean slate. You weren't on any pharmaceutical drugs, but still you had a very remarkable, and I want to say it is not the most common presentation where somebody has that dramatic an improvement overnight or within 2 weeks like that, although we see that.
It happens.
But I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the progesterone. The progesterone is what made the huge difference, because you had your hysterectomy. You hadn't had that, and that hadn't been in your body properly even before the hysterectomy. And I love to get women that have had hysterectomies and when they've had the ovaries removed, and when we give them progesterone, they go, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I feel that good.
Yeah, that's for sure, because it was from day one. And, my husband's a runner, and he would always try to get me to run with him. And run for me stands for Are You Nuts? And so
that's great.
I came home for my daughter's, because I stayed down there for, a week. And I was running, and I've run every day since then. He's like, I just can't believe it. I can't believe the change.
Well,
Kathy, she runs even when we're traveling and we're on the road.
Now that's crazy. Now that's a huge change, isn't it? I mean, here's a woman that couldn't hardly get out of bed. Now she's out running her husband.
Running around, yes.
Well, listen, it sounds to me like you got your life back.
Amen.
Hey, Johnny, it sounds like John, it sounds like you got your wife back.
I have my wife back, which, it's just, it's wonderful. She's always been here.
But now she's got that youthful vibrancy again, which people can have as they mature. There's no reason in the world, as you mature, you shouldn't feel like $1 million. But most people don't take charge of their health. And this is what I want to congratulate both you and your husband, John, that he supported you in this, that you decided to take charge of your health. He decided that he wanted to support that, and that you got your life back. You got yourself on a path of health and wellness. And that's so important. And I congratulate you for that. And that's a great example to all those who know you and who are listening to this program.
Dr. Hotze, I'd like to add that we were ready to move forward before her first phone call. at whatever the cost was, because we knew what we had spent over the years with no results. So the cost of your program is extraordinary.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted John's comments on here, because I think that a lot of times women hear these podcasts or, see a video or whatever, and then they're trying to convince their husband that this is going to be a good thing. And it has just changed our lives. It's changed our marriage. It's changed our family. And I was just telling my friend this the other day, because I just turned 50, so this is my big 50 present or whatever, but I said, you don't have to age gracefully. You don't have to age at all. You can take charge of your health, and you can be what you want to be. You just have to do it.
Well, I want to underscore that you've got to take charge of your health, and you did it, so I congratulate you on that. And John's point, too, that the cost is so minimal. It's extraordinary for the results you get. How much is your health worth? How much of 15 or 20 years of being sick and tired, seeing doctors, being on drugs, not having good relationships, spouse with kids, not being able to work, what is it worth to be full of energy and enthusiastic and full of vitality? I mean, most people would pay a fortune if they could know they could get it, and it's available and at a fairly reasonable price, really, if you think about the benefits. So congratulations to you, too. I'm so very proud of you and happy for you.
We are so grateful that God led us to you.
Yes,
Well,
Merry Christmas.
We
Thank
thank
you.
God that he answered the prayer and he gave us the opportunity to serve you.
It's
Thank
a
you,
privilege.
Dr. Hotze, and all the staff, and we look forward to a continued relationship with everybody at the Hotze Clinic.
Well, great.
Well, now, if any of those symptoms resonate with you, if their story resonates with you, give us a call. Everyone deserves a health coach. 281-698-8698. That's 281-698-8698. It would be a privilege to serve you as well. Thank you for joining us today here at Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution.
Information provided on this radio program is neither intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice and is not intended to replace the services of a physician, nor does it constitute a doctor-patient relationship. You should not use information from this radio program to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. If you have or suspect you have an urgent medical problem, promptly contact a professional healthcare provider or call 911. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution radio program advises you to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider prior to starting any new treatment or with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Any application of the recommendations from this radio program is at the listener's discretion.